Roger Wallace, color analyst for UT football, joins us on 365 Sports on his way to a high school football broadcast tonight. Raj, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Man, you had Michigan. Now you get Georgia, Oklahoma, even though that was a blowout. This is one hell of a start. What a really nice schedule the first half of the season.
Yeah, it's gone pretty well when you think about, Texas obviously off to a great start, but it'll be a whole different animal against Carson Beck and this Georgia offense. They kind of, I don't want to say they got lucky, but you think about the quarterback situation in all those games has been kind of unsettled going back to Michigan. Now they get one of the best in the country, and we'll see a little more accurately maybe where this team stands on Saturday night.
Is this the not that they haven't had nerves for the rest, but is this the true nervous SEC game tension because this is the first real true test of this team's talent versus another team that should be on the level with them?
Yeah, well, they're always nervous going into OU, as everybody knows, with that series. So they don't care what shape OU's in. That's a nervous game. But this is just the one where, when the schedule came out, you knew somebody big was coming here. And it happens to be, the premier program in the nation maybe in the last 10 years or neck and neck with Alabama. So combine that with the fact that Texas is undefeated, number one, no doubt that this is the one, even when the schedule came down more so than any other game, people kind of circled. I mean, they knew they were going to play A&M. They knew they were going to play Arkansas. They didn't know they were going to host Georgia.
What were your thoughts on what you saw from Quinn Ewers?
Rusty. I mean, he missed high, starting with the third throw of the game that he got picked off on. Similar to some other throws when things aren't going well, that seems to be where he struggles a little bit. And then I do think OU's defense is pretty good, and they put a lot of pressure on him. And then Texas in the second quarter, they were able to run the ball, and that really changed everything. And, this running back group probably doesn't get enough credit. Now it's Trey Wisner. And I know, David, you loved him. We talked preseason about how much you liked him, and nobody knew that he would become so prominent in their rushing attack as he is now. And then, Ewers made enough plays, but he's going to have to make more, and I think he will on Saturday night against the Georgia defense that, gave up over 300 yards to a freshman quarterback in Michael Van Buren last week for Mississippi State.
Do you know, or will they know only after this week what their weaknesses, if anything, they have?
That's a good question, and I'll go yes. They can't be. I'm only saying this because of the scar tissue for the last decade plus. They can't be this good on defense for 12 games where they're not giving up touchdowns in games. They're giving up late scores in games to make it where they gave up 7. So they're going to get tested on defense more here in the next few weeks. There's no doubt about that. So there's one where we're wondering. And then 2, can they, still consistently run the ball, against a Georgia front? I don't know, Vanderbilt, they're kind of the flavor of the year right now for what they've done magically, but I still think Texas can line up and have some success against them. So I'll go yes, just because we haven't seen it yet as far as, they really haven't taken a meaningful fourth quarter snap in 6 games. That's absurd.
Roger, with the quarterback situation they have there, they're good either way. It doesn't matter. But Quinn looked, a little rusty last week. Do you think that was lingering injury, rust? What would you call it?
Maybe a little of that. And then, maybe the fact that what he did against OU 2 years ago when he came off the injury from Alabama, and it all was so easy. So the natural reaction is, he's done this before. He's done this before going into OU. But that OU team, obviously, 2 years ago was a mess. This one wasn't, especially defensively. They played well on defense against Tennessee. Their defense had to win the game against Auburn, and it did. So I think it was a combination of maybe the best front And for some reason, Michigan just didn't play very well against them early on. So I think it's a combination. But, man, you guys want to shut down Sark, ask him about making a quarterback change. That's what happened today in his news conference. He did not want to talk about that, and, rightly so. That, he's not going to talk about what goes into making a in-game change other than an injury. So, but that was a frosty moment today.
But good grief, Roger. I mean, talk about an embarrassment of riches. Most people are talking about which quarterback to play because both of them stink or they're hurt or something. And Texas is like, which better than most of the country's quarterback do we play? We got two options. And then listening to you talk about the rest of the team, it's almost like you got to be bracing for something's got to go wrong at some point. Knock on wood. I'm not wishing for that. But, my gosh, how could you have drawn up a better first half of this season? And if they beat Georgia, forget about it.
You couldn't, and that's what. And again, I go back to I'm speaking for the fans now, but the scar tissue since 2009 is kind of what's going to happen next. What shoe is going to fall? Now, last year, they kind of pulled the MAC thing, and that's you lose to OU, and then you run the table, and they end up in the playoffs. So, what they're doing, guys, to me, and I know you probably talk about every week with the playoff is. Every time you win a game, you kind of put that insurance card in your back pocket for another week because one loss Texas is going to get in the playoffs. So as long as you can keep racking up wins, and then you realize that things could, you're going to stumble down the stretch possibly. So that's why this game's so big for so many reasons is it's just another time to put that card in your pocket and play another week with that perfect record.
Roger, as you've watched this game approach, Texas, obviously, they haven't been completely perfect, but they're about as close to it as we've seen. And you mentioned being tested this week. Georgia, though, they don't seem right. It's not like that great second half against Alabama, but the first half they're down 28-0. They've kind of hit and missed like a bad engine in a car. Do they seem right to you?
Yeah, and I think that's when you have so much success like Alabama's had, like Georgia, that time against Clemson, you just kind of assume, right? You assume the jersey and the logo, and it's going to be just as good as the last one. And I think you can go both ways. Georgia's probably not as good as they've been the last few years. They could probably get there. They've got the talent, and Texas isn't as bad as they've been. So the logo at Texas not scaring anybody lately. But yeah, they give up 31. I know a lot of it was late to Mississippi State, but still, that's Kirby Smart. Nobody takes more pride in defense than that guy. And to see Mississippi State put up 31 points, they dropped out of the number one spot in the AP poll after the win against Kentucky, where they only put up 13. So to your point. Yeah, you get down by 28, you make a great comeback against Alabama, then lose. That's got to take its toll, too. So certainly this doesn't appear to be the dominant type Georgia team we've seen in the past. And, how do you keep it up, guys? Kirby Smart, 99 wins, and he's only halfway through his ninth season, rather, is just unbelievable.
Roger, going back to the Oklahoma game for a second, I was just curious. I know you've been to a lot of those rivalry games between the two, and there's ebbs and flows over the course of time, but just what did you take away from the Oklahoma side of things? Because, when you're having conversations about what was worse, that shutout blowout from, a couple years back or this game here, and the answer was this game here feels worse than the blowout from a couple years ago. That's a pretty low point. So just what was that atmosphere like, and when's the last time you've seen OU kind of down this bad, I suppose?
Yeah, it all started with David. My first Texas OU game was 1987. At the Cotton Bowl. But here's the thing. I noticed it early because you can kind of get a gauge on the fans and how they feel about their team. OU wasn't there early. They were not packing that south end zone like they normally do early. Usually Texas fans have that, that reputation of kind of laissez-faire, late arriving and all that. And this was totally opposite. So that's your first clue. And your second clue is just kind of during the game, it was almost more hope than expectation. And I've been there so many times where OU either expected or knew that they were the better team. So that's the feeling I got 2 years ago. Remember, Dylan Gabriel was hurt.
Yeah.
Or that's a much different ball game. This year, they had Jackson Arnold, and they thought he was going to be good enough where they didn't care that Gabriel moved on to Oregon. And then they make the switch to Hawkins. So now, definitely, I think the OU side is going, man, where are we right now as a program? Now, in this day and age, if they want to go get a quarterback next year, they could be right in the thick of it, depending on who they find in the portal, if they want to go that route. Whereas you guys talked about it, Sark seems to have built something that's pretty good, pretty solid right now for the next few years.
87 Texas OU, 44-9. Roger, Oklahoma won that game.
Yeah, what was it 88 or 89, the Johnny Walker catch?
Yep, absolutely. Yep. We were right there on the sideline, and we're able to enjoy the atmosphere. Yeah.
And I know you'll know it, but you remember what happened the day after our first Texas OU game? Scab game.
Oh,
Scab
the
game.
Washington beat Dallas with their backups, right?
Yeah, scab game at Texas Stadium.
Absolutely. My memory used to be pretty good, but no, I remember the fact that they had backups who beat Randy White, Danny White, Tony Dorsett, and others. That was unbelievable. Good gosh, yeah, the scab game.
See, our old station just celebrated 70 years, David. You and I were not honored in their look back. I knew you should have been. I knew I wouldn't be. They missed it on you, though.
No, I ended up making a switch to a station across the loop, and then from that point on, I was persona non gratis. Yeah. 70 years. Man, we had some great times. Hey, Raj, I know you got a high school game. Thanks for your time. Enjoy all of what you have, because you went through about a decade of with what Texas was doing. So enjoy it. Thanks for your time. Good luck with the broadcast Saturday.
Always good to talk to you guys. Take care.
Roger Wallace. Yeah, we covered that scab game. Redskins won the Super Bowl.